Hey, this is Mike Lai with Craven Studios, and you are listening to the Artist Series interviews. Today I'm joined by London-based saxophonist Thomas Fletcher. He is currently pursuing a master's degree in jazz saxophone at Guildhall, composes and arranges music for ensembles, and teaches music online. We talk about the importance of ear training, transcribing solos, and playing the UE across different genres.
So my name's Thomas Fletcher. I am a saxophonist and woodwind player, and I am currently going to pursue a master's in jazz saxophone, but also I'm doing a lot of live performance, writing, and as well as being an author as well. So I'm doing a lot of projects at the moment, in and out of education. So I've just recently finished my undergrad in music and currently going to pursue a master's degree at Conservatoire in London, the Guildhall. So I've been working on lots of different projects, which are including loads of different styles of music, lots of different musical instruments, the UE, different woodwind instruments, and different saxophones as well, the soprano, the tenor, the alto. And as well as doing that, I mean, I do a lot of composing, a lot of arranging for different ensembles, and as well as performing, that's my love as well. I mean, I arrange for different ensembles. It might be a small quartet, or it might be 5 saxophones and a rhythm section, or it might even be a big band, studio big band, stuff like that. So I really enjoy that sort of style of music, the big band elements, but very, very interested in sort of bringing that old sort of sense of tradition into the future, into the present. Sort of these established ensembles, but including sort of new styles of music and mixing with each other. So, for example, sort of bringing in sort of Afrobeat or more R&B popular styles of music into more traditional ensemble settings, like the big band or something similar or smaller. On top of this, I mean, I do a lot of writing as well. So I being an author, I do a lot of album reviews. I do a lot of interviews, and not now, but I did do a lot of live performance reviews and sort of writing articles about the current music industry, and what it has to offer as of now, and what it can offer in the future. I mean, a lot of people I've been very fortunate to sort of chat with and find out more. I mean, I've talked to people like Chris Potter, people like Bob Mintzer, asking about their input into the music industry and what the next generation has to offer as well. So that's been really interesting to sort of pursue, not only for the industry or the public that are really keen to hear about that, but also for myself as well, because it's a great platform for me to sort of develop my own performance skills, my own musicality as well.
It sounds like you're taking more of a back end approach to things with the composition and writing, because typically when I talk to artists, you know, the first thing they want to, or the first thing they gravitate towards is having some sort of a single release or an album. It could be a collaboration of some sort, but you know, it seems like your focus is more on writing, composing, and the
Yeah,
educational.
it's interesting you say that. Because I mean, I've done a lot of feature stuff. I mean, I've featured on a lot of singles, EPs, albums, for as we said just recently, for different settings, for different genres of music, whether it be sort of more indie, even indie rock. I've done most recently, sort of the traditional big band, popular styles, reggae, dub music, and then obviously your traditional sort of quartet, jazz, bebop stars. So I've done a lot of sort of recording and being a feature on a lot of albums, but I've never sort of thought as of yet to release my own work. I still think I'm at the moment I'm in the process of writing, composing, exploring different artists as well, and sort of trying to find my own voice in the industry, I think.
So you listed off a lot of different genres. Now, when you mix them together, are you creating new genres, do you think, or are they ones that are out there that that you're going to contribute to?
I think it's certainly sort of an area of music that I'd like to contribute to. I mean, if I do sort of create new styles, I'd be very pleased with that. But I think it's sort of taking what has been or is being sort of done at the moment and trying to expand on that, trying to, as we were talking earlier, trying to put that into the limelight and try and get it out there and try and break traditions, really. I think is really the key. For example, I'm based in Southeast London, so Southeast London is very popular for its sort of blends of jazz formats. So you've got your tenor saxophone, your drums, your bass, your piano, but sort of incorporating different styles, so more Afrobeat, and that's all to do with the demographic in the area, and the cultures and the diversity that's being brought up in the area, and it's been reflected in the music, which is really interesting, and it's really good because it brings out new sort of music and experiences for live audiences and for listeners and consumers.
Great. Now you touched a little bit on your solo work, and I that's actually kind of how I stumbled upon your Instagram profile, is because you were doing, I guess you would call them transcriptions.
Yeah.
There's a very performative aspect to them, because you're obviously out, you're on the street, and then it looks like you're on the street, and it looks like you're playing the track through your headphones, and then you're doing the soloing part on your EWI. And I like how you attack the solo, because the intent is there. I can see the passion behind it. I will say, though, that it is a little bit difficult to differentiate the sound of the EWI versus the backtrack.
That's the difficulty. That is the difficulty with the EWI. I suppose it was just there were videos for me just to get myself out there as a performer, and maybe sort of, because I think the EWI is still very new to me, and I've never been confident enough to put it out there to social media. But I think it's very much early days, and I just wanted to sort of feel comfortable getting out material that I'm playing on the EWI, and these transcriptions. I mean, they're really good for, if I was to encourage anyone in sort of to improve their vocabulary on any instrument, not just the EWI or the saxophone, on any instrument, just do transcriptions of your favorite solos of your favorite artists, and it really helps. It really does help. And then just get it out there on social media for people to experience, because you might be doing them a favor. You might be sort of they may be engaging with music that they've never experienced before.
Now, in your mind, is a transcription, do you listen to the solo, and then do you try to write it down, or is it more just listen to it, play it back, listen to it, play it back?
Yeah, I think it's a balance of both. I mean, it's great to write these things down and to document them and to understand them harmonically and musically. But it's also equally important to use your ear as much as possible, because in music, certainly for me, I mean, it may be different for others, but certainly for me, using your ear is a key attribute to becoming a successful and a great musician. Being able just to listen to something and just playing it back is a skill that is very, very sought after and can be very useful in a musical context. So I do a bit of both. Yeah, I mean, I will listen to it. I'd listen to the solo. I mean, and then I'd write it down, and and then I'd probably practice it and then maybe learn it off by heart. So I'm really kind of like processing the music, processing it, understanding it, and not just reading it as much as possible, because I think the more you process it, the more it will stick with you and stay with you, and you can use that in your own practice.
For me, I think I perhaps over-relied on my ear, and there's a detachment from the writing aspect of it. So for me, sight reading was not a strength at all. But my ears are good. I can almost, I don't have perfect pitch, but I can tell within a very small range where I am, and but that's probably not a best practice.
But I mean, you get music. Yeah, but having said that, I mean, some musicians are trained like that, and look at them, they're like flying high, and they're really good. They're really successful. I mean, I do a bit of teaching as well. So I teach saxophone as well, and I always say to my students, make a balance. Use your ear, but also understand. Read music, because it will help you in the future. It will help you, and if you can get a good balance on them, that's the key to being a really successful and accomplished musician.
I talked to Tim Linetsky. He's also known as Underbelly. He has sort of the infamous YouTube channel, You Suck at Producing, and it seems like now a lot of people, and he mentioned the importance of diversifying your skill set so that you can kind of weather the storm. I mean, the pandemic is, I think, negatively impacting a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been quite fortunate, because I've been able to do a lot online, a lot of lessons online. If it was just face to face, then I'd have really struggled. But having that opportunity to do online teaching has been really useful. And I mean, a lot of people would sort of say to that, well, I'm not gonna have the same experience as I would face to face than I would having online. But actually, it's been really good. I mean, since the pandemic, it has been the first time I've been doing online lessons with students, and it has been really, really effective. Obviously, there are limitations. You can't play together, and you can't play if I accompany them and they can't play together. So there are limitations, but the fundamental aspects of the teaching experience can be put across through Zoom, Skype, whatever platform you want to use, and that has been really useful. So going back to your question, I think a lot of musicians have their interests, and I mean, some musicians aren't patient enough to teach, which is fair enough. They're a musician. They're focused on sort of getting their music out there. I think there's lots of different sides to being a musician. You can be one of those musicians that wants to pass on the sort of the ability to play saxophone, and then you've got some musicians that really want to put their music out there, put their creativity out to the world, and specifically and solely focus their mindset and their lives to sharing their music with the world. I suppose everyone's got a passion for something, and everyone is good at something. I suppose I'm trying to do all at once, which I don't think is successful at the moment, but I hope will be soon enough.
Well, you've got a very sort of calm demeanor that I think people would find very comforting in taking online lessons for. So
thank you.
Thank you. So you mentioned that you obviously jump between genres quite a bit. Can you talk a bit about what your current what is in your basic kit, if you will? You mentioned you play the saxophone, you have the iwi, but then you do a lot of composing and arranging.
Yeah.
So what does gear look like for you?
Gear for me is very, very I guess it's very basic. I mean, I always came into music as a performer, and like yourself, I was classically trained. I did classical grades, and I was a classical saxophonist to start with, and then the older I became, the more exposed I was to different styles of music, and wanted to find out more about that. And I suppose I was very fortunate to take a subject at college and music technology, so I was using platforms like Cubase and stuff like that, and then I got into Logic. But yeah, I mean, my gear is very basic. I mean, I use this trusty mic, the AKG C214, for a lot of things, for my teaching, for my recording, and then I use Sibelius a lot. Sibelius is my go-to music software for composing and arranging. I try to say to myself, keep old school as much as possible. Keep writing it down yourself. Keep listening, and then input it into Sibelius. Because the wonders of Sibelius is great, but it can be unhelpful in some ways, because it does a lot for you and you don't process. Like, for example, ranges of instruments. Sibelius knows that. Therefore, we can heavily rely on that too much, and I think it's important to understand what you're writing as well as just inputting it into Sibelius and that doing it for you. Yeah, I mean, the EWI, I use the EWI. I've been using the EWI for a few years now, and I think a lot of respect is needed for the EWI, actually, because a lot of people think it's an extension of the saxophone, but in my opinion, I think it's an instrument in its own right. Yes, it's got similar it's got the same sort of model and of the saxophone, but it's completely different. I mean, it's completely different. Well, I suppose the first time I started playing the EWI, I was like, whoa, I'm really out of my comfort zone here. I had to sort of really get used to the sensitivity of the fingers. I mean, some saxophonist might relate here, but I mean, with a saxophone, you can kind of like touch those pearls and not make a sound. I mean, obviously on the EWI, it's completely different. If you touch those notes, you're making a sound. So having that sort of that sensation of always knowing that your fingers have to be off the EWI is a little bit sort of new to start with. And then there's the octave key at the back, which is probably, in my opinion, the most the thing that blew my mind the most. I mean, having like 7 or 8 octaves instead of just one octave key like a saxophone was like really out of this world for me, and the ability just to sort of take the time to practice that and feel comfortable with that did take time, actually. And yeah, I think anyone that wants to learn the EWI, don't expect it to be like the saxophone, because I'd say 60% new instrument, maybe 40% similar to the saxophone. Yeah, I mean, and then I plug it into Logic, and I either use presets on the EWI or make my own MIDI sounds on Logic, which I can input into the MIDI controller, which is the EWI.
Are you sampling more traditional sounds, or, because I feel like maybe the default sound of the EWI is perhaps a sort of an acquired taste, or if you will, and it might sound a bit foreign to some people, and perhaps you might say it's very specific to a genre or a subgenre of music. Are you modifying it to suit your own musical tastes?
Yeah, I am. I think I'll only use the EWI in certain context of music. I mean, you see people like what's his name, Chad, on Instagram, and he'll use the EWI in a very traditional context. Like he'll play like a jazz standard on it with a bassist, with a pianist, and a drummer. And I can't really see myself doing that. I think you have to be very skilled and very confident to do that. I can only see myself using the EWI in more contemporary styles of music. And for me, it fits that. I mean, if you look at Michael, if you see the work that Michael Brecker did on it, it was in sort of the latter stages of his musical development, where he was playing a lot more contemporary styles of music, and I can only see it really fitting in that context. For me personally, I mean, I think the saxophone, the acoustic saxophone instrument belongs with certain styles of music, and
sure.
I do think the iwi has a strong future, and I do think it will develop in the woodwind world. But I never think that it will rule out the acoustic.
Sure.
The acoustic of the acoustic sound of the saxophone or any woodwind instrument. I think it has a rightful place, and I wouldn't want it to overtake the beauty of the acoustic sounds of a saxophone.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, if I return to Chad, he sort of uses the iwi as like a vocoder. He's not playing the iwi, but he's using it as a vocoder, so he'll be sort of pronunciating syllables and shapes with his mouth, but using the iwi as the vocoder. And it's things like that I do like, actually. I do like, and sort of extending the possibilities of an instrument. And with the iwi, there's endless possibilities. Yeah.
So is there anything that you're working on in the near future that you'd like to talk about? Or releasing in the near future, rather?
Oof, let me think. I mean, not at the moment. Sorry to tell you, but not at the moment. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's with this whole pandemic thing, there's a lot that was going to happen, but I mean, I think at the moment, I think I'm in a sort of stage where I want to just sort of take the pandemic and the lockdown as an opportunity just to clear my head and just sort of think about what my next stages are and what to plan, and to take some time out, really, because since that it's been really busy with loads of different projects, loads of sort of writing and stuff. So I think the future is very much bright, and there's a lot that will come out of this lockdown. A lot of great ideas and projects that will come out of this lockdown, hopefully when the pandemic, fingers crossed, kind of reduces a little. So I hope, and I sure will be contributing as well. But I am using this time just to sort of reflect and sort of to kind of be ready to input.
What is the website?
So it's www.thomasfletchermusic.com, and that's got loads of photos that you want if you wanted to use, bit of info, and all my articles as well that I've written as well, and the interviews as well. So yeah, feel free and. I mean, yeah, there was a performance. I think I touched on it. There was a performance last year that last couple of months back when the lockdown sort of started to begin, and that was really, really good opportunity to play. And reminiscing about it now is a little bit upsetting, because you just don't know when those times are going to return. And I mean, that was recorded, so I'm happy to share some of that material as well. Yeah, so I do. I mean, I'm super eclectic with my music. I'm always open to explore, to learn, to be educated, and try out different styles. So yeah, like that one. That was, I knew a guy in Madrid actually, who came over to London, and I got chatting to him, and it turns out he was a sitar player. And it was, if you pardon the pun, music to my ears, because to have the opportunity to learn new styles of music, so Indian classical music, and again, like we were saying, incorporate that into another context. So, for example, soprano saxophone is not used that much in Indian classical music, and for me to put across my expertise in playing the soprano and incorporate that and blend it into a very established style of music that I wasn't familiar with was really, really inspiring for me, and also for him, because he'd never played with the soprano saxophone before. So that was a really interesting experience. I got to play a rag that he knew, and he sort of explained it through the scales and the Indian Indian rhythms and tempos, time signatures was really interesting. And then through technology, we were able to sort of perform together to an extent, and to release a cool video of a sitar and soprano saxophone playing a rag, which is mad.
What I liked about that video is that you're demonstrating the importance of listening as well, because you have to sort of tread very delicately, because you have to give enough space for the other performer.
Exactly.
And I think you guys struck a pretty good balance. So
it's interesting because you have to sort of understand what he's playing enough to input yourself. And with the rag, you kind of have you have different sections. You kind of have this section at the start, which is all kind of like improvised and kind of like a setting the scene, really. And then you have this next section, which is kind of more rhythmically charged, and the sort of the main scale and the melody is introduced, and then from that it continues to be developed until you reach a climax where it kind of breaks away at the end, and is sort of breaks away and softens into an improvised area until it finalizes at the end. New experience for me, and again, now that I've learned and been educated in that sort of sense, I can apply that to other styles of music, and it's kind of all this continuous sort of process, which you're being educated from different areas of music, and you're applying it to other areas of music, and that sort of process I really enjoy and really thrive upon, and kind of want to promote. Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I certainly accept spiritual beliefs and people, and respect them, and accept them, because I mean they've inputted into society lots of different styles of music, and which have been adapted and inputted to, I mean, lots of other styles of music. You take an easy example is the Beatles. I mean, they were blown away and so inspired by Indian classical music, and then they go away and record at Abbey Road Studios with a sitar in their band. So it's you really, and then how successful is that? So you kind of got to for me, you got to embrace it all, and don't shut doors too soon.
I wanted to get into specifics of your instrument, so tell us which saxophone you play on primarily, the mouthpiece, and then your thoughts on, does it even actually matter, or is it just the musician?
So I've been playing the alto saxophone for 13 years now. So I started when I was 8 years old. So I've been playing the alto saxophone for 13 years, and I started on a saxophone that was bought for me at Christmas time on eBay, and it was a Chinese model, unknown, and that really was a great door for me, and I used that, and then my dad put it back on eBay and made a profit out of it, so he was happy with that. And then I moved to a student horn, which was a Yamaha it was called a 275 back when I had it, and it still is. I think it's now a 280, and I still have that as my backup horn. Great horn. I if I were to recommend any student models, Yamaha, really, really strong. They're very solid horns with good ergonomics. I played my Yamaha 280 for a long time, and I think must be a few years back now, 5 or 6 years, I then sort of upgraded to my professional horn, which I now play and still play, and it's a Selmer Mark 6.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's I think it's 1961, so still in that famed 5-digit number, if some people believe in that. And then, so I've been playing on my Mark 6 for a while now, and I mean, no one will argue that it's a beautiful instrument and performs very well. And then I play on a Meyer medium chamber 5 tip opening mouthpiece for that. That's kind of my go-to. I do have other mouthpieces which I use for different contexts, but that's kind of my go-to. So that kind of sort of softer, darker, warmer tone is kind of my go-to sound. I mean, yeah, I do have metal mouthpieces which I use in more popular contexts, but I don't use them as much unless I'm in a big band. I don't know, I really want to be heard. And then my tenor is kind of like my second instrument. I use a Selma Con, which is a modern instrument. It's not a vintage saxophone. The vintage horn, the only vintage horn is my Selma Mark 6. And then so I use that with a Jody Jazz actually, style mouthpiece, which is really good. HR, really versatile, flexible, in making a great sound. And then my soprano is my alto student equivalent, so I just use the Yamaha 280 soprano equivalent. And again, because it's kind of like my second, third instrument, I use it a lot, but not as much in my Selma. I'm very happy with that model. It does the job really. I mean, it's got a great sound, and it performs really well, and it doesn't need servicing that much because it's not old. Yeah, I use a Van Doren. I can't remember the model name of the mouthpiece as well, which is really really easy and versatile as well.
The reason I ask is because I have one of the older Ladycon 10Ms.
I saw your little animation. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I saw.
I really enjoyed it.
Unfortunate because at the moment, because I live in an apartment, it's been degraded to a set prop. But the reason I asked is because this has a very distinct warm tone, and I've always wanted to play soprano. Mm-hmm. It just really just for my. I just wanted to. It's for my own pleasure, really. They have these like $300-$400 ones on Amazon for and they are probably a cheapo brand, and but you kind of question whether or not the YouTube demos are actually honest. They probably send the best one with no flaws to the guys that are demoing them, but there's like things like you could do the light leak test and things like that, and sometimes the pads aren't anyways, I just thought I'm a very safe guy. And I would never I haven't said that I started on something off eBay, so I can't really speak that much for it, but I am very safe, and I'd always go for a sort of well established model like a Yamaha. Sure.
But I mean, it depends. It really does depend, and you've got a great horn there. Keep that horn because they're beautiful. They're really, really nice. Really sought after. A lovely, big, fat, rounded, sort of warm sound that those tenors give, which is really, really, really sought after. No, I was just going to say there was a video on, I think it was like Red Bull Music or Red Bull TV, that I really enjoyed, and it was kind of using like patches, and I can't remember his name. I might share it with you later. But yeah, I think there are certainly avenues. I mean, I use what do I use? I use the Boss V20 vocal processor. I don't use it all the time. I rarely use it because I'm a traditionalist when it comes to using the acoustic saxophone. I have the Ewin and I have the saxophone, but I do use it sometimes, and it's great. It is great. I mean, I kind of use it very basically. I mean, I only use it for added effects, maybe like a harmonizer or something, if the style of music is appropriate for it. And it can be great in live context. I'm not sure about it in recording context. If you were to go record an album or something with using it, I mean, of course, it depends on the style of the music. But for the listener, for the audience, it kind of just like gives that edge to the live performance and really can sort of draw an audience in.
Sure.
I do really like it in that context, especially if you're a solo artist and you've got like a sort of small ensemble behind you. I kind of used it in that video that I'll share with you, and it's great for that kind of sort of like groove based music. If you're kind of like if it's on a groove and you wanted sort of to take that next level and just sort of lift it a bit, I think pedals are really useful for that context.
Yeah, thanks for that insight. I had to ask because for me, some people it seems almost kind of gimmicky, and it's just sort of like a trend.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that completely. And I think the reason why people think that is because they're not used in the right scenarios. I think if you're careful and you really know where to put a pedal in certain styles of music, then you're achieve in that sense. You'll be successful. I mean, if I was to give an example, I wouldn't put a delay pedal or a reverb pedal in sort of a classic quartet sense, but maybe I might put it in a more sort of free or experimental sort of sense. So things like that, I think people just got to be aware of where and not to input them, and that might sort of reduce the negative comments about pedals. But yeah, I think they're great, and I think they do have a future in sort of with the saxophone.
Well, that was like almost an hour, and I meant to only take about half an hour of your time, so I appreciate.
Don't worry, it's been great sharing some insights, and really, really, really interesting. No, I was just going to say, I was looking at your content on social media and Instagram, and there's some really cool stuff that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the Sios sort of like leveler meter with all the different saxophonists and where they fit on the spectrum. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that was really cool animation. And the con as well.